So I saw that some people tried to put a positive spin on this report this morning. And while I understand that, it's not positive. I think it's dangerous when news tries to tell you what you want to hear. That's a big problem with news these days. You got to tell it like it is. And I guess sometimes things could be right on the precipice of good or bad, so you could go either way. But this is just not good. Because bottom line, it's never a good sign when a business decides to be less transparent. If a business has good developments, trust me, they will tell you. But when they retreat more within themselves, that means they're trying to hide something. So AT&T today made an announcement that they're like, you know what? We're just not going to tell you HBO Max subscribers anymore. We're not going to give you a specific number for HBO Max by itself. Instead, we're going to only report to you our subscribership for both HBO and HBO Max. And if the HBO Max development had been good, they would not have done that. Instead of using HBO to, because HBO has a lot more subscribers than it had before HBO Max even launched. So they're basically using the HBO numbers to prop up what are still very low HBO Max numbers, despite all the stuff that they've done over the past few months. That's incredible to me. We're going to break this down. We're going to break it down. But first, let's talk about the specific numbers that were announced today and the numbers that were not. So today, AT&T and Warner Media. AT&T is the parent company of Warner Media, and HBO Max is part of that company rather than a part of Warner Media Studios. Very complex chain of command, which I'm sure isn't helping things. Meanwhile, Disney is working to streamline their chain of command, but they also don't have a parent company. Say what you will about Bob Chapek. Love him or hate him, and I don't think that ratio is 50-50. But the guy did, during the pandemic, when things looked bleak for Disney at the beginning, not only kept that company afloat so that there was no takeover, but they're in fact stronger than ever. So Chapek's got that going for him. But anyway, and I do think that HBO Max will eventually get there. We'll talk about that at the very end of this video. So there is a light at the end of this dark, dark tunnel, but we don't know how long this tunnel is. And I think part of how long it is will depend, I think AT&T and Warner Media are kind of going to be the ones who decide how long the tunnel is. All right, so anyway, they announced today that HBO and HBO Max domestic subscribers combined have jumped about 3 million. At first, I thought this is my second take on this video, because I was like, 3 million so low. I must have been wrong. It must be 4. So I had to go check it again to make sure. And it is just 3. It's a little under 3. And so together, the two services are at 44.2 million total. So again, they're using HBO numbers to bolster very low HBO Max numbers. Now, on that note, even if every single one of those new subscriptions was for HBO Max, which is unlikely, although why would anyone subscribe to just HBO at this point? Because you get the HBO content on HBO Max. That is weird. I guess HBO subscribers are through traditional cable, come to think of it. Man, these numbers are all over the place. This is like putting apples and oranges in the same basket and saying these are all apples. They're not. Some of them are oranges. All right, so anyway, even if all these new subscribers were for HBO Max, based on their last report in early January of being at about 17 million subscribers, that would mean that HBO Max only has about 20 million subs total. That's so low considering the competition. Not the kind of blow up we were all expecting, considering all of the movies that have been released on HBO Max in the first quarter in an effort to bolster those very subscriber numbers. Whew, all right, so let's take a look at where our top services currently stand. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about what HBO Max can do to fix this and how this is a problem that's developing for all the streaming services. But first off, this is where all our top services currently stand. And to be clear, they're also all making tons of money. I saw some people say, AT&T's still making a lot of money off of this, and they are. But companies need to show growth. That's what Wall Street likes to see. They like to see that your company has a future. They want to see growth. So slowdown of growth is very bad, and other services are experiencing that same problem, by the way, which we'll discuss. And then also, if it's going to become difficult to acquire new customers, how are these companies going to justify to their shareholders spending more and more money, not only to get people to subscribe, but to keep people subscribed? So you have operation costs going up, but your subscribers are not going up at the same rate. That becomes problematic. These things aren't just going to just roll along with no changes. That's something you need to consider. And these numbers are very big, but you're dealing with big expenses too. I think sometimes people will say, "Oh, how much money did this bring in? Oh, hooray!" Well, how many people? What's the net? There's the revenue, but what's the profit? You have to employ a bunch of people. You have to pay for a bunch of new content. You have to maybe do some advertising. Although Netflix saves a lot of money there, don't they? But yeah, there's significant expenses that are very high as well. So Netflix is still king with about 208 million subscribers globally, and about half of that is domestic in the United States. Although they just announced in their own first quarter report that they fell short of their subscriber goal. They were hoping to get 6 million subscribers. They got just 4, and Wall Street was really unhappy about that. They're only 2 million off, but Wall Street was like, holy crap, and their stock really took a hit. Amazon Prime also has announced recently that they're at 200 million subscribers worldwide, but that's for Prime. Remember, Prime membership involves so many things like free 2-day shipping. Although I do have some interesting information for you about people who are Amazon members who stream content, which we'll get to when we talk about foreign content. But anyway, Disney Plus has about 100 million subscribers globally, and they do not reveal their domestic versus foreign breakdown, so they're a little secretive too. Well, HBO and HBO Max have 63.9 million subscribers worldwide, 44.2 of which are domestic. Those overseas numbers are real low. Although, HBO is available some places overseas. It's tough. But again, about 20 million of that are HBO Max specific. So I think the takeaways from this are pretty clear. 1, the marketplace is finally reaching saturation, and growth is slowing down across the board. People can only subscribe to so many services, especially when they don't have to. Yes, I think password sharing will soon really go extinct. Now, Netflix was asked about that specifically during their quarterly report, and they said, people are not going to feel as good about you as a company if you do that. And they're like, we don't want people not to feel good about us as a company, but I'm sure they'll come up with a reason why you should still like them when they do this. They're going to have to do it. There's going to come to a point where growth is slowed down to such an extent that they're going to have to free up potential subscribers by cutting down on password sharing. They're all going to do that. They've been all nice about it for now because they just want their services to grow. But once they can no longer grow, they're going to look to free up potential subscribers that way. We'll see what happens. It could be mass pandemonium. It might be a really bad idea, but I bet you they're going to try it. 2, HBO Max still has not found the right carrot to convince consumers they need to be subscribed to HBO Max. Surely, one would think that the entire 2021 slate of movies debuting on the platform day and date would do it. But apparently people are content to see these movies in the theater or wait to buy or rent them down the line on PVOD. Remember, everyone was like, how much did HBO Max cost Godzilla vs. Kong? It seems not much. Although we've also discussed that actually not that many people watch movies in theaters. So the 20 million people who are subscribed to HBO Max might be enough to hurt the theatrical box office. It's tough to tell. It's getting harder and harder to tell. The movies that go to Disney Plus and HBO Max, they're usually available for rent or purchase on PVOD just a month later. And so I think that that's also keeping people from feeling they need to subscribe. They'll just buy what they are interested in a la carte. And this is why release windows are so important. That's why you have to be really rigid with them. Theatrical windows, PVOD windows, streaming windows, pay one windows, which we just learned about yesterday with the Disney, Netflix, Sony deals. These things are all very important. 3, unfortunately, the Snyder Cut did not drive subscribership at HBO Max as they and fans had hoped it would. Now, some of you, I think, unsubscribed because of your, to support Restore the Snyderverse. But if you did, you should have waited until after the quarterly report because you might have hurt the Snyderverse and allowed headlines like this one. 4, streaming services are clearly a global play. That becomes clearer and clearer. Yes, HBO Max is significantly hurt by only still being available in the United States. A lot of Snyder Cut fans, for instance, are overseas, so their viewership did nothing to bolster the service. That's really unfortunate. Today, the Wall Street Journal spotlighted fascinating article that Netflix is having real success by developing and producing content overseas instead of only exporting Hollywood content as the industry has done for decades. This is fascinating. Disney Plus is following suit, as is Amazon, who in the article boasted that they had an 80% surge of international subscribers deciding to stream video. Isn't that amazing? HBO Max does have some foreign content, but because it's a domestic service right now, all they're doing is importing, and America is still the least interested country in other countries' content, unfortunately. Content from other countries is to entice subscribers from those countries. Sure, a show might occasionally be a breakout hit across the board, like Lupin. And some U.S. content might be popular in other countries. But people want to watch local content which reflects them. People like to see themselves up on screen. Hollywood has had to learn this, and streaming has learned it even faster. Well, Netflix, of course, leading the way. And by the way, I think that, it's all about money, but a wonderful side development about this means this will have a lot of growth for local talent in front of and behind the camera in other countries where these streaming services are, because Disney and Netflix and Amazon and maybe HBO, Warner Brothers will start to fund shows and movies made in these countries domestically. And that's fantastic. So that's very exciting. If you live in a country where you're like, how am I ever going to get into the entertainment business? We don't have a big industry. Well, you might pretty soon. You might want to keep an eye on what these streaming services are doing right in your backyard. So how can HBO Max catch up? Well, they can change their name. I think it should have something with Warner in it, or Warner Brothers. They're real fast to get rid of the Warner Brothers over there, but I think people really like the Warner Brothers name. I mean, it was started by some Warner Brothers. I like it. But anyway, sure enough, they will be launching in Latin America in June, and Europe and some other places by the end of the year. So they'll have that going for them. There should be a boost in subscribers then. But also in June, HBO Max will be offering a cheaper ad-supported version. That's right around the corner, but they still haven't decided on a price yet. But it will be cheaper. However, you won't be getting the 2021 movies day and date, because of course you won't. They don't charge extra like Disney does on Disney Plus, so you can see the difference. That's interesting. I wonder if you get the cheaper version, can you purchase the movie if you're interested in it on HBO Max like you can with Premier Access on Disney Plus? We'll see what they decide to do. But if you can't get the theatrical releases, why would anybody want the cheaper version of HBO Max with ads? I mean, HBO Max is not significantly more expensive than Netflix. So I don't really think it's a price point issue. I think it's a bang for your buck issue. I think HBO Max needs more exclusive content that isn't available in a movie theater day and date or on PVOD just a month later. Or their HBO content is available on HBO still, HBO proper, right? A lot of it, and that heads over to iTunes eventually. You can buy the season. Netflix, if you want to watch a Netflix show, you can only watch it on Netflix, a Netflix show or movie. Do you want to see something that Disney Plus has that's an original? You could only see it on that service, except for a few movies, of course. And also, I think HBO Max really needs a hit show. That's incredibly important. HBO Max still hasn't had a blockbuster series, unlike Netflix, Disney Plus, and even Amazon. Disney Plus launched with The Mandalorian. I don't know if HBO could have afforded to wait. HBO Max could have afforded to wait, but they don't have a big brand show. And even Amazon has caught up with The Boys and their superhero stuff and some great movies recently. And also, HBO Max needs to create a space that feels special. I think part of the reason Disney Plus has had such exponential growth, besides the price point, because again, it's not just about price. It's that it feels like an extension of the Disney theme parks. You feel like you enter these specific worlds. And HBO Max, even beyond the name, has yet to really utilize DC, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings went to Amazon, by the way. That's an Amazon show. What the heck? I mean, the space, when they launched, they said they were targeting women. They said that. They said their main person that they were going to target was women, which was why I think HBO Max's signature color is purple. But it's not working. Women are not, these numbers aren't working. I think they should have, and when you enter the different portals, I don't really feel like I've entered DC land or even Turner Classic Movies land. The fact that HBO Max hasn't really built on their amazing film library is incredible to me, because that's one area where they really stand apart from the competition, that they have this impressive library of classic films. Turner Classic Movies is their brand, and that, you know, that still means something to a lot of people, and yet there's not really a space where I can feel like I enter that world. Basically, I feel that when you log on to HBO Max, it should feel like Space Jam 2, and it doesn't. Now, I think that HBO Max, as I said, will eventually get there. Exclusive DC content is coming, and it's coming quickly, because, you know, they shuttered DC Universe, so that a lot of those third seasons are going to debut on HBO Max exclusively. I think that will help. But they have to fix the branding, they have to fix the interface, and so the amount of time it takes for them to realize that will dictate when I think they can catch up to the competition. But what do you think? I'd be curious to know, which of these places are you subscribed to? Do you do password sharing? Do you ride your subscriberships? If you're not subscribed to HBO Max, what's keeping you from doing it? Did you unsubscribe because of Restore the Snyderverse? Are you overseas and just like, please take my money, HBO Max, but they still won't take it? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on these latest developments. And what do you think of combining the HBO and HBO Max subscription numbers? If they're still two different services, I don't think that you can do that. So, I wish they would get their stuff on Nielsen. HBO Max content is still not measured in terms of viewership in that regard. It's just very frustrating. I mean, get in this race. All right, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.